The great crystal dome of the Galactic Council stretched high above the meeting hall. Hundreds of alien beings sat in floating chairs, their strange forms casting weird shadows on the polished floor. Commander Velthar stood at the center podium, his 4 arms holding data tablets while his 6 eyes scanned the crowd. "Today we review the primitive worlds in Sector 7, Velthar announced. His voice echoed through translators, turning his clicking speech into words every species could understand. Most are still in early development stages. Nothing to worry about. Byung-ho sat in the middle section, his crystalline body reflecting the soft blue lights of the chamber. He worked as a planetary assessor, one of thousands who kept track of developing worlds across the galaxy. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Most planets took millions of years to become interesting. First up is Kepler 442b, Velthar continued. The inhabitants just discovered fire. We estimate another 50,000 years before they develop spaceflight. A few council members chuckled. Hay-One, a young intern from the Nebular Courts, leaned forward in her seat. She was new to this job and still found everything exciting. Her supervisor had warned her that most of these briefings were very dull. Next is HD 4307G. The dominant species there has learned to use metal tools. They might reach their moon in about 20,000 years. More quiet laughter rippled through the hall. Byung-ho checked his tablet, scrolling through the endless list of primitive worlds. Most were filled with creatures that barely knew how to make wheels. A few had discovered electricity. Even fewer had split the atom. It was all very predictable. Now we come to an interesting case, Velthar said, his tone changing slightly. Planet designation Earth, in the Sol system. Hai-Wan perked up. She had heard whispers about this planet in the halls. Some of the older assessors made jokes about it. The inhabitants call themselves humans, Velthar continued. Our last survey was conducted 50 Earth years ago. At that time, they had just begun crude space exploration. They managed to land on their moon using primitive chemical rockets. Taemin, the senior military advisor, leaned back in his floating chair. His species had conquered half their galaxy before humans even existed. "What's their current status?" he asked. Velthar tapped his tablet. "Still using fossil fuels for most energy needs. Still fighting wars over water and minerals. They have developed some basic computer technology, but nothing impressive. Most concerning, they still believe they are alone in the universe." The entire council erupted in laughter. Byung-ho shook his head in amusement. How could any species be so blind? The galaxy was filled with thousands of civilizations. Radio signals crossed space constantly. How could they miss all of it? They have something they call the Internet, Velthar added. A primitive information network. They use it mostly for entertainment and arguing with each other. "Do they have any space capabilities?" asked Council Leader Zixara, her tentacles waving in curiosity. "Very limited. They have a few small stations orbiting their planet. They send robot probes to nearby worlds, but very slowly. Their fastest ships would take them 40,000 years to reach the nearest star." Hay-Wan raised her hand. "What about their weapons technology?" "Nothing remarkable. They have nuclear weapons, but the destructive power is minimal by galactic standards. One of our patrol ships could destroy their entire planet in minutes." Velthar's eyes gleamed with amusement. "They point these weapons at each other instead of looking up at the stars." Taemin nodded slowly. "Any signs of rapid technological advancement?" "None whatsoever. They advance very slowly, always fighting among themselves. They waste enormous resources on conflicts instead of development. Most of their scientific efforts focus on making better weapons to use against their own species. Byung-ho updated his files as Velthar spoke. Earth received a Class 7 primitive rating, the same as planets full of creatures that had just learned to farm. It was almost insulting to put them that high. "What about their biology?" asked Dr. Rendell, the Council's chief xenobiologist. "Quite fragile, actually. They need a very specific atmosphere to survive. Small temperature changes can kill them. They require constant food and water. Without their technology, they would die quickly on most worlds." "Sounds like every other carbon-based species," Byung-ho muttered to himself. "Their lifespan is extremely short," Velthar continued. "Around 70 to 80 of their years. Barely enough time to learn anything useful." "Have they detected our presence in their system?" Taemin wanted to know. "Not at all. We maintain several observation posts in their outer asteroid belt. They have no idea we exist. Their telescopes are too primitive to spot our cloaked facilities." Haewon found this hard to believe. "They've never seen any of our ships?" "Their governments may have detected a few incidents over the years, but they hide this information from their general population. They seem to prefer keeping their people ignorant." The council members shook their heads in disgust. "What kind of leaders would hide such important information?" "Recommendation?" asked Council Leader Zixara. "Continue minimal observation. Update their file in 100 Earth years. They pose absolutely no threat to galactic security." Velthar closed his tablet with a satisfied click. Byung-ho stamped the file with official approval. Earth would remain on the ignore list for another century. There were thousands of other worlds that needed attention more. "Any questions before we move on?" Velthar asked. Haewon raised her hand again. "Should we make contact? Maybe offer them guidance?" The entire council burst into laughter again. Even the usually serious Taemin smiled. "My dear intern," said Council Leader Zixara kindly, "we have protocols for first contact. A species must demonstrate certain capabilities before we reveal ourselves. They must achieve faster-than-light travel. They must show they can live in peace with themselves. They must prove they can handle advanced technology responsibly. Humans fail on all counts," Velthar added. "They can barely reach their own moon. They constantly fight wars. They would probably try to steal our technology and use it as weapons." Byung-ho nodded in agreement. He had seen the reports from Earth. These humans spent enormous amounts of money building machines to kill each other. They poisoned their own atmosphere for profit. They couldn't even work together to solve simple problems like hunger or disease. "Besides," Taemin said, "what could they possibly offer us? Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their science is primitive. They have no rare minerals we need. They're just another young species stumbling around in the dark." The meeting moved on to other planets. Haewon took notes dutifully, but her mind kept wandering back to Earth. Something about the human situation bothered her, though she couldn't say what. After the session ended, Byung-ho filed the Earth report in the deep archives. It would gather dust there for the next 100 years, just like thousands of other primitive world assessments. As he walked home through the crystal corridors of the station, Byung-ho thought about the humans far away on their little blue planet. Poor creatures, he mused. They had no idea how big and dangerous the universe really was. They thought they were important, but they were just specks of dust floating in space. If they only knew what was really out there, they would probably hide under their beds and never come out. It was probably better this way. 6 months after the council meeting, emergency alarms blared throughout the Galactic Confederation headquarters. Admiral Jin Woo rushed through the corridors, his scaled skin flashing different colors as stress hormones flooded his system. He had commanded fleets for over 2 centuries, but he had never seen anything like this. The Situation Room buzzed with activity. Dozens of officers worked at holographic displays tracking fleet movements across 3 star systems. Red warning lights painted everything in bloody shadows. "Report," Jin Woo ordered as he entered. Chief Tactical Officer So Young turned from her console. Her usually calm demeanor had cracked, and worry lines creased her face. "The Drakmar Empire has launched a full-scale invasion of the Outer Rim territories. They've destroyed the Velnari homeworld completely." Jinwoo felt his stomach drop. The Velnari had been peaceful traders for thousands of years. Their planet had been home to over 3 billion souls. "How many ships?" he asked. "Our scouts report at least 500 Drakmar battleships. They're using some kind of new weapon technology. Our defensive fleets lasted less than 6 hours. Communications specialist Min Ho looked up from his station. "Sir, we're getting distress calls from 12 different systems. The Drakmar are moving faster than we thought possible." Jinwoo studied the tactical display. Red markers showed Drakmar positions advancing like a plague across the star map. Each red dot represented death and destruction on an unimaginable scale. The Drakmar had always been aggressive, but they usually attacked one system at a time. This was different. This was coordinated extermination. "What about our reinforcements?" Jinwoo asked. So Young shook her head. "The 4th Fleet was completely destroyed at Rigel Prime. The 7th Fleet retreated after losing half their ships. Admiral Kethran requests immediate backup." "With what ships?" Jinwoo snapped. "We're already spread too thin. The Confederate military had grown comfortable over the centuries. Most member species were peaceful. Wars were rare and small. Nobody had prepared for something like this. "Sir," Minho called out, "I'm picking up some strange transmissions." "From where?" "The Sol system. That primitive planet Earth." Jinwoo frowned. "Why are you monitoring primitive worlds? We have bigger problems right now." Minho looked confused. "That's just it, sir. These signals aren't primitive. They're using advanced quantum encryption. Mathematical models I've never seen before." So Young walked over to Minho's station. "Show me." The communications officer brought up a series of complex equations on his screen. "This is a transmission from Earth dated 3 days ago. It's discussing theoretical applications of antimatter propulsion." "That's impossible," So Young said. "Our files show they barely understand nuclear fusion." "There's more," Minho continued. "They're also transmitting detailed tactical analyses of space combat scenarios. Look at this." The screen filled with diagrams showing fleet formations and attack patterns. The level of detail was impressive, even by Confederate standards. Jinwoo leaned over the console. "When was our last intelligence update on Earth?" 50 years ago, sir. They were classified as Class 7 primitive." "Pull up those old files." Minho's fingers danced across his controls. According to this, humans had just reached their moon using chemical rockets. No faster than light capability, limited space infrastructure. "Then how do you explain these transmissions?" "I don't know, sir. But there's something else. I've been monitoring their military communications. They have detailed defensive plans for something they call alien invasion scenarios." So Young and Jinwoo exchanged glances. "They know about galactic civilization?" "It appears so. And, sir, their theoretical weapon systems. Some of these designs are more advanced than our current technology. An explosion on the tactical display drew their attention back to the main crisis. Another Confederate fleet had just been destroyed. The Drakmar advance continued. "Sir," So Young said quietly, "we're losing this war. Our conventional strategies aren't working against their new weapons." Jinwoo stared at the display, watching red markers swallow entire systems. The Confederation had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years through superior technology and careful diplomacy. Now they were being crushed by a species they had considered barely civilized. "What if—" he started, then stopped. "What if what, sir?" "What if we've been wrong about Earth? What if these humans aren't as primitive as we thought?" Minho pulled up more transmissions. "Sir, look at this. It's a human military document discussing defensive strategies against faster-than-light attack fleets." The document was detailed and sophisticated. It covered everything from orbital defense platforms to guerrilla warfare in asteroid fields. Most shocking of all, it included countermeasures against weapon systems that only existed in Confederate arsenals. "This is impossible," So Young whispered. "How could they know about our weapons?" "Unless they've been watching us the same way we've been watching them," Jinwoo realized. Another alarm sounded. The Drakmar had broken through the Centauri defense line. 3 more systems had gone dark. "Sir, we need to do something," So Young urged. "At this rate, they'll reach the inner systems within weeks." Jinwoo made a decision that went against everything in the Confederate Regulations Manual. "Minho, I want you to establish a communication link with Earth." "Sir, that violates first contact protocols." "So does the complete destruction of galactic civilization. Do it." Minho hesitated, then began working his controls. "It will take several hours to reach them, sir, and we don't know how they'll respond. Send them our tactical data on the Drakmar attacks. If they're as advanced as these transmissions suggest, maybe they can see something we're missing." So Young looked skeptical. "Even if they have advanced theoretical knowledge, they're still stuck in one system. What could they possibly do to help?" "I don't know," Jinwoo admitted. "But our current strategies are failing. We need fresh thinking." The next few hours passed in tense silence. More systems fell to the Drakmar advance. Refugee ships limped into Confederate space carrying stories of unimaginable horror. Then Minho's console chimed. "Sir, we're receiving a response from Earth." "Put it on the main screen." The holographic display flickered, then showed a human face. The creature looked remarkably similar to several humanoid species in the Confederation, but with subtle differences. Its skin was smooth and pale. Its eyes were small and forward-facing, and it had hair growing from the top of its head. "This is Admiral J. Sung of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said in perfect galactic standard language. "We've reviewed your tactical data. The Drakmar are using a predictable advance pattern based on overwhelming firepower. We have several suggestions." So Young's mouth fell open. "They have a defense force?" "First," the human continued, "your fleets are too rigid. You're meeting them head-on where they're strongest. Second, you're not exploiting their supply lines. Third, and most importantly, you're fighting the war they want to fight." Jinwoo leaned forward. "What do you suggest?" "Hit-and-run tactics. Strike their supply convoys, force them to split their fleets. Most importantly, make them come to you on ground of your choosing." The human's analysis was brilliant. In 20 minutes, this creature from a supposedly primitive world had identified flaws that Confederate tacticians had missed completely. "How? Do you know so much about space combat?" So Young asked. Admiral Jae Sung smiled, and there was something predatory in that expression. We've been preparing for this possibility for a very long time. The transmission ended, leaving the Confederate officers staring at a blank screen. Min-ho, Jin-woo said finally, I want a complete intelligence review of the Sol system. And I want it yesterday. Yes, sir. As alarms continued to blare throughout the station, Jin-woo couldn't shake the feeling that everything they thought they knew about the galaxy was about to change. The humans were not what they seemed. So-young's reconnaissance ship drifted silently through the asteroid belt at the edge of the Sol system. Her team had been observing Earth for 2 weeks now, and everything they discovered made less sense than the last. This can't be right, muttered Dong-hyun, the team's xenobiologist. He stared at his scanner readings with confusion written across his features. According to our old files, humans should barely have orbital capabilities. Yoon-seo, the communications expert, looked up from her console. I'm detecting massive energy signatures from what appears to be empty space. Either their cloaking technology is better than ours, or we're missing something big. So-young adjusted the ship's sensors for a deeper scan. What she saw made her question everything she thought she knew about this supposedly primitive species. Hidden among the asteroids were dozens of installations. Not crude mining operations or simple observation posts, but sophisticated military bases bristling with weapons that looked remarkably advanced. Each base was perfectly camouflaged, invisible to casual observation. How long have these been here? So-young asked. Dong-hyun checked his readings. Based on the metal composition and energy signatures, I'd say at least 50 years. Some of these structures might be even older. 50 years? Yoon-seo looked shocked. That means they built these right after their first moon landing. So-young felt a chill run down her spine. While the Galactic Council had been laughing about human primitiveness, the humans had been quietly building a defense network in their own backyard. What kind of weapons are we looking at? She asked. Dong-hyun's instruments hummed as he analyzed the installations. I'm reading particle beam arrays, gravitational field generators, and something that looks like antimatter torpedo launchers. Antimatter? So-young couldn't hide her surprise. The Confederate fleet only started using antimatter weapons 20 years ago. There's more, Yoon-seo added. I'm intercepting communications between Earth and these asteroid bases. They're coordinating patrol schedules and defensive positions. This isn't some secret government project. This is a full military operation. So-young ordered the ship to move closer to Earth itself. What they found there was even more shocking. The planet's surface looked exactly as expected. Cities, roads, farmland, and the occasional primitive space installation. But orbital scans revealed a completely different picture. Look at this, Dong-hyun said, pointing to his display. There are massive underground complexes beneath every major city. Some of these facilities extend kilometers below the surface. What are they for? Manufacturing, by the looks of it. Advanced materials, precision electronics, and... oh my. What? They're building starships down there, not the primitive chemical rockets in our files. These are proper interstellar vessels with faster-than-light capability. Yoon-seo nearly dropped her equipment. That's impossible. Our intelligence reports showed they had no FTL technology. Our intelligence reports were wrong, So-young said grimly. The question is, how wrong? Over the next few days, the reconnaissance team uncovered the truth piece by piece. The humans had been deceiving galactic civilization for decades. They discovered that Earth's governments had been recovering crashed alien technology for over a century, not just studying it, but successfully reverse engineering it and improving upon the original designs. "Look at these communication intercepts," Yun Seo said during their daily briefing. "They've been monitoring galactic communications for 30 years. They know about the Confederation, the major species, even our military capabilities." Dong-hyun nodded. "And they've been learning. These humans are incredibly adaptable. They take alien technology and somehow make it better." "Better how?" "Efficiency, improvements, size reductions, reliability enhancements. They've taken our designs and evolved them in ways we never considered." So-young studied the accumulated data. The picture it painted was terrifying and impressive in equal measure. The humans had deliberately maintained the appearance of a primitive civilization, while secretly preparing for eventual contact with galactic powers. They had assumed that contact would be hostile and prepared accordingly. They've been playing the long game, she realized, letting everyone underestimate them while they built up their true capabilities. "But why?" Yun Seo asked. "Why not reveal themselves and join galactic civilization?" Dong-hyun pulled up files on human history. "Look at their past. Every time a less advanced civilization met a more advanced one on their planet, the results were usually catastrophic for the less advanced group. They learned from their own history," So-young said. "They assumed the galaxy would treat them the same way they treated each other. And honestly," Yun Seo admitted, "they weren't completely wrong. The Council would have insisted on guidance and protection. Many species lose their independence that way." The reconnaissance team discovered that human scientific advancement had accelerated dramatically over the past 50 years. Not through alien assistance, but through their own remarkable ingenuity. "They don't just copy our technology," Dong-hyun explained. "They understand the underlying principles and then innovate. Some of their recent developments are things we never thought of, such as adaptive armor that changes properties based on incoming threats, weapon systems that learn from each battle and improve their targeting, ship designs that can reconfigure themselves for different mission types." So-young felt a growing respect for these humans. They had taken the worst possible assumption about galactic civilization and prepared for it. When first contact finally came, they would be ready. "There's something else," Yun Seo said quietly. "I've been monitoring their military communications. They know about the Drakmar invasion." "How could they possibly know about that?" "They've been tracking Confederate fleet movements for weeks. They know our forces are losing." Dong-hyun looked up from his screens. "And they're mobilizing." "What do you mean?" "All across their system, I'm detecting increased activity. Ships moving into position, weapons being armed, defensive systems coming online. They're preparing for war." So-young realized the implications. "They think the Drakmar might come here next." "Or they're planning to help," Yun Seo suggested. "Help? Why would they help us? We've been treating them like ignorant children for decades." "Maybe because they understand that if the Confederation falls, they'll be next on the Drakmar target list." The team continued their observations, documenting everything they found. Each new discovery forced them to revise their understanding of human capabilities upward. These weren't the primitive creatures described in Confederate files. These were a sophisticated, highly advanced species that had been deliberately hiding their true nature. "I need to report back to Admiral Jinwoo," So-young decided. "He needs to know what we're really dealing with here." "What are you going to tell him?" Dong-hyun asked. So-young looked at the blue planet hanging in space before them. Beautiful, peaceful, and far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The truth. that we've been completely wrong about humanity. They're not primitive. They're not helpless. And if I'm reading these energy signatures correctly, they have enough firepower hidden in this system to destroy a Drakmar battle fleet. Think they'd be willing to help us? Yuncio wondered. I don't know, So Young admitted, but I'm starting to think we should be hoping they're willing to let us help them. As their ship prepared to return to Confederate space, So Young took one last look at Earth's hidden defenses. Somewhere down on that planet, human leaders were making decisions that would affect the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council had spent decades laughing at Earth's inhabitants. Soon, the galaxy would learn that the joke had been on them all along. The Drakmar fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a plague of metal locusts. 350 warships, each one the size of a small city, their hulls black as space itself and bristling with weapons designed to crack planets. War Commander Vexitar stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the primitive system spread out before him. His scouts had reported only one inhabited world, populated by creatures so backward they still used fossil fuels. Another easy conquest, Vexitar growled to his subordinates. These humans won't even know what hit them. The Drakmar had perfected the art of total war over millennia. They would strip the system of all useful resources, enslave any survivors, and move on to the next target. It was efficient, profitable, and satisfying. Sir, reported Navigation Officer Crail Knox, we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the inner system. Defensive installations? Possibly, but the signatures are strange. Nothing like Confederate technology. Vexitar dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. Primitive species often build crude orbital platforms. They won't last 5 minutes against our plasma cannons. As the Drakmar fleet advanced deeper into the Sol system, Admiral Jae Sung sat in the command center of Luna Base, hidden beneath the surface of Earth's moon. Around him, dozens of human officers worked at sleek control stations, coordinating the most important battle in their species' history. Drakmar fleet has passed the outer sensor network, reported Lieutenant Yun Ji from her engineering station. All ships are now in the trap zone. Jae Sung nodded calmly. His weathered face showed no emotion, but inside, his heart raced. Humanity had prepared for this moment for over 50 years. Now they would discover if their preparations had been enough. Status of our forces? He asked. All asteroid defense platforms are online and ready. Stealth fighter squadrons are in position. The orbital shipyards have deployed our battle fleet. Confederate observer? Commander Wu Jin, the Confederate liaison officer, stood at a separate console. He had arrived just days before the Drakmar attack, still struggling to understand what he was seeing. My ship is monitoring from a safe distance, Admiral. My superiors need to witness this. Good. They should see what humanity is truly capable of. Chief Tactical Officer Sun He looked up from her displays. Admiral, the Drakmar are maintaining standard formation. They're not taking any special precautions. They still think we're primitive, Jae Sung realized. Perfect. Execute Phase 1. Across the Sol system, weapons platforms that had been disguised as asteroids for decades suddenly came to life. Massive railguns emerged from hidden bays. Energy shields flickered into existence. Targeting systems locked onto the advancing enemy fleet. Vexitar was reviewing invasion plans when his tactical officer's alarm shrieked through the bridge. Sir, multiple energy spikes throughout the system. I'm counting over 200 defensive platforms. What? Vextar spun toward the display screens. Red warning indicators covered the tactical map like a rash. "Where did they come from?" "They were hidden among the asteroids, sir. Our scouts missed them completely." Before Vextar could respond, the first human railgun fired. The projectile, a tungsten rod accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, punched through the shields of a Drakmar battleship like paper. The massive vessel exploded in a ball of plasma visible from Earth. "Return fire!" Vextar roared. "Destroy those platforms!" The Drakmar fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma beams and missile salvos streaked toward the asteroid fortresses. But the human platforms had been designed to withstand exactly this kind of bombardment. "Adaptive shielding is holding," Yunji reported. "Their weapons are having minimal effect." "Phase 2, Jae-sung ordered. From behind the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, the human fleet emerged, sleek ships that bore no resemblance to the crude chemical rockets in Confederate files. These vessels moved with impossible grace, their hulls shifting and changing as they approached the enemy. Sun-hee smiled as she watched the tactical display. "Morphing armor is functioning perfectly. Their targeting systems can't get a lock." The human ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of fixed designs, they could reshape themselves during battle. A ship configured for long-range combat could instantly transform into a close-quarters fighter. Vextar watched in disbelief as his superior fleet began taking heavy casualties. "How are they moving so fast?" "Their ships are smaller than ours, but much more maneuverable," his tactical officer reported. "And their weapons?" "Sir, they're using technologies I don't recognize." The human fighters darted between Drakmar battleships like angry insects. Their weapons fired exotic particles that seemed to ignore conventional shielding. Wherever they struck, Drakmar ships simply ceased to exist. "Fall back to defensive formation," Vextar commanded. But it was too late. The humans had studied Drakmar tactics for months, analyzing every battle in the Confederate War. They knew exactly how the enemy would respond to each threat. "They're trying to form a sphere formation," Sun-hee observed. "Classic Drakmar defensive posture, which makes them perfect targets for the Jupiter cannon," Jae-sung noted. "Jupiter cannon?" Woo-jin asked, confused. Yunji's fingers danced over her controls. "We've been mining Jupiter's moons for rare elements. The excavation equipment makes an excellent mass driver when properly modified." On the tactical display, a massive energy signature appeared near Jupiter. The gas giant's largest moon had been hollowed out and converted into a weapon capable of hurling asteroids at relativistic speeds. The Drakmar fleet, bunched together in their defensive formation, made a perfect target. "Fire," Jae-sung said, quietly. The asteroid, accelerated to incredible velocity by electromagnetic fields, struck the center of the Drakmar formation. The explosion vaporized 50 enemy ships instantly. The shockwave damaged dozens more. Vextar's flagship shuddered as debris rained against its hull. "This is impossible! They're primitives!" "Sir, we've lost over half our fleet. Request permission to retreat." "No, we don't retreat from primitives." But the battle was already over. Human fighters swarmed the remaining Drakmar ships. The adaptive weapons learned from each engagement, becoming more effective with every shot. Ships that survived one attack pattern fell to the next. "Their artificial intelligence is remarkable," Woo-jin muttered, watching the display. "Each weapon system is learning and evolving in real time." "We've had a lot of practice fighting ourselves," Sun-hee explained. "Human military history provided excellent training data. Within 4 hours, the entire Drakmar fleet had been destroyed. Not A single enemy ship escaped to report what had happened. Vextar's flagship was the last to fall. As human boarders cut through his hull, the war commander finally understood the magnitude of his error. These weren't primitives. They were apex predators who had been hiding in plain sight. As the battle ended, Jae-sung turned to Woo Jin. "I trust this demonstration answers any questions about human capabilities?" The Confederate observer could only nod. Everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had just been proven wrong. "What happens now?" Woo Jin asked. Jae-sung looked at the tactical display, where human ships were already moving to secure the battlefield and rescue any Confederate prisoners from Drakmar vessels. "Now we have a conversation with your Galactic Council. It's time for humanity to take its proper place in galactic civilization. As a protected member species," Jae-sung's smile was sharp as a blade. "No, Commander. As an equal." On Earth, crowds gathered in city squares around the world, watching the news broadcasts with a mixture of pride and relief. The secret was finally out. Humanity was no longer hiding. The galaxy would never be the same. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had drawn representatives from every corner of known space. The great crystal dome buzzed with nervous energy as beings from hundreds of worlds tried to process what they had witnessed. Admiral Jae-sung stood at the center podium where Commander Velthar had dismissed Earth just months before. The human looked calm and confident, his dress uniform bearing decorations that no one in the council recognized but somehow conveyed authority. "Council." Leader Zixara's tentacles writhed with barely controlled anxiety. "The Confederation owes humanity a debt of gratitude for stopping the Drakmar advance. However, we must discuss the implications of your concealed capabilities." Byung-ho sat in his usual seat, still struggling to accept what he had seen. The crystalline assessor had spent his entire career cataloging primitive worlds. Nothing in his experience had prepared him for this reversal. "You deliberately deceived us," accused Taemin, though his usual commanding tone lacked its normal confidence. "Our intelligence reports were systematically falsified." Jae-sung's expression didn't change. "No Confederate official ever asked us about our true capabilities. Your assessments were based on observations of what we chose to show you." Hae-won, now promoted to Senior Intelligence Coordinator after the massive intelligence failure, leaned forward. "Why hide your advancement? Most species seek contact with galactic civilization as soon as they achieve interstellar flight." "Because we studied your history first," replied Dr. Kyung-soo, the human scientist who accompanied Jae-sung. "Every species that joined the Confederation did so from a position of weakness. They traded independence for protection and guidance." "Which isn't necessarily a bad thing," protested Council Leader Zixara. "We've brought peace and prosperity to thousands of worlds." "Under your terms," human diplomat Young Mi interjected smoothly. "With your rules, your oversight, your limitations on technological development." The council chamber erupted in defensive chatter. Species representatives argued among themselves about the fairness of Confederation policies. Jae-sung waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "We chose a different path. We observed, we learned, and we prepared. When contact became inevitable, we ensured it would be on equal terms." "Equal terms?" Taemin's military bearing returned. "You destroyed an entire Drakmar fleet. That suggests superiority, not equality." "The Drakmar were a threat to both our civilizations," Jae-sung replied. "We eliminated that threat efficiently. This demonstrates capability, not aggression." Byung-ho finally found his voice. "How long have you known about us?" We detected the first Confederate survey probes over 80 years ago, Dr. Kyung-soo answered. We've been monitoring galactic communications for 60 years. We established our first observation posts in your territory 30 years ago. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. While they had been dismissing humanity as primitive, humans had been studying them with the dedication of apex predators learning about their environment. You've been spying on us for decades, Zixara accused. We've been protecting ourselves, Young-mi corrected. Every species needs to understand its neighbors. Haewon displayed a holographic chart. Our analysis of the human fleet suggests technological capabilities equal to or exceeding our most advanced member species. How did you achieve such rapid development? Kyung-soo smiled. Humanity has always excelled at learning from others and improving on existing ideas. We took Confederate technology as a starting point and evolved it. Into what? Systems that think, adapt, and evolve. Weapons that learn from each battle. Ships that can reconfigure themselves for any mission. Materials that change properties based on environmental conditions. The council members exchanged worried glances. Some of these innovations sounded like theoretical concepts their own scientists had been working on for centuries. We'd like to propose a formal alliance, Jae-sung announced. Humanity offers its technological expertise and military capabilities in exchange for full membership in galactic civilization. Full membership? Taemin looked skeptical. Most new species undergo decades of guided integration. Most new species don't single-handedly defeat threats that your combined fleets couldn't handle, Young-mi pointed out. The truth of that statement hung heavy in the air. The Confederation's mighty fleets had been retreating steadily before the Drakmar advance. Humanity had ended the war in a single afternoon. Council leader Zixara called for a brief recess. As the chamber emptied for private consultations, Byung-ho approached the human delegation. I was the assessor who classified your world as primitive, he admitted. I apologize for our assumptions. Jae-sung studied the crystalline being. You worked with the information you had. We made sure that information was incomplete. But why reveal yourselves now? Because isolation is no longer practical, Dr. Kyung-soo explained. The galaxy is becoming more dangerous. The Drakmar were just the beginning. What do you mean? Young-mi pulled up a star chart. Our deep space monitors have detected similar aggressive expansions in 3 other galactic regions. The Drakmar weren't unique. They were part of a pattern. Byung-ho felt a chill run through his crystal matrix. You think there are more threats coming? We're certain of it. The galaxy is entering a period of instability. Isolated civilizations won't survive what's coming. When the session resumed, the vote was closer than expected. Some council members remained suspicious of humanity's hidden agenda. Others worried about setting precedents for technological species that concealed their capabilities. But the military situation spoke for itself. The Confederation needed allies who could actually fight. The motion passes, announced Council Leader Zixara. Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Confederation, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Jae-sung nodded, formally. We accept, and we offer immediate assistance with your remaining security concerns. Such as, Dr. Kyung-soo activated a holographic display showing the positions of former Drakmar territories. These systems are now undefended. Refugee populations need protection. Reconstruction efforts require security. You're offering to patrol former Drakmar space? We're offering to do whatever needs to be done to maintain galactic stability. Over. The following weeks, human ships appeared throughout the devastated regions. Their vessels were unlike anything the galaxy had seen, but their efficiency was undeniable. Planets that had been under Drakmar occupation for months were liberated. In days, refugee camps received supplies and protection. Pirate fleets that had moved into abandoned systems found themselves facing human patrol ships and quickly retreated. Hay-1 worked closely with human intelligence services, learning new methods of threat assessment and data analysis. "Your approach is completely different from ours," she observed during one joint briefing. "We assume the worst-case scenario and prepare for it," explained Intelligence Coordinator Minseo. "Better to be over-prepared than surprised." "Is that why you hid your capabilities for so long?" "Partly. We also wanted to understand galactic culture before committing to any relationships." "And what did you conclude?" Minseo considered the question. "That most species in the Confederation are decent people trying to build something better. But the galaxy is a dangerous place, and good intentions aren't always enough." Meanwhile, Byung-ho found himself working with human assessment teams, learning new techniques for evaluating planetary civilizations. "We don't just look at technology levels," explained assessment specialist Dong-woo. "We examine adaptability, problem-solving capabilities, and potential for rapid advancement." "How do you measure potential?" "By studying how a species responds to challenges. Do they innovate or stagnate? Do they work together or fragment? Do they learn from others or remain isolated?" Byung-ho realized this approach might have identified humanity's true nature much earlier. "Your methods could revolutionize how we monitor developing civilizations." "That's the idea. The galaxy needs better intelligence if we're going to face future threats effectively." As human technology began integrating with Confederate systems, the improvements were remarkable. Communication networks became faster and more secure. Defense systems grew more responsive and adaptive. Scientific research accelerated as human innovation techniques spread to other species. But perhaps the most significant change was psychological. The Confederation had grown comfortable with its position as the galaxy's dominant civilization. Humanity's emergence forced everyone to reconsider their assumptions. "They've changed everything," Taemin admitted to his staff during a strategy meeting. "We can't afford to be complacent anymore." "Is that bad?" "No," he realized. "It's exactly what we needed." 6 months after first contact, Admiral Jae-sung stood on the observation deck of Confederation Central, looking out at the bustling traffic of ships from dozens of worlds. Human vessels moved among them now, no longer hiding their true nature. Young Mei joined him at the viewport. "Any regrets about revealing ourselves?" Jae-sung considered the question. "We couldn't hide forever. Better to emerge on our own terms than be discovered by accident." "And the future?" "Uncertain but promising. The galaxy is vast and full of surprises. Some will be good, others dangerous, but we'll face them together now."